What's going on, familia? Episode 176, Motivation. Before we start, I want to thank our sponsors, David Law, Rosenberg Law, Miami Salsa Cruise, My Dance Shirts. Thank you guys so much as you continue to bring value to our beloved Salsa Kings community. Thank you so much for all that you do. And thanks to you, our viewers, or listeners, of course. 176, Motivation. So getting right into this, guys, want to go ahead and expand on 175, the previous episode, which I thought was amazing. Pablo really knocked it out of the ballpark with the concept of wagon pullers versus wagon riders. Motivation, the root word of motivation is motives or a motive. Essentially, why are we doing something, right? So when we're talking about relationships, when we're talking about why we enter into a connection with somebody else, a dance, we're discussing why. For what purpose, right? And it can be as shallow, not saying that that's a bad thing, as to kind of shake some stress away or to forget about somebody or maybe to remind us of someone. The motives are endless. However, what I want to bring to light is this motivation that you have going in can dramatically affect how the overall dance feels. Now, we're at episode 176. I'm so grateful for all of you that have continued, that have been listening since episode 1, and how all of this kind of continues to expand. So we're at a relatively deep level here at this point. And the argument can be said, it's like, well, it's not that serious to me. Sure. If we're not dancing very often. But for some of us that do, for some of us that really do dance often, that social dancing is kind of like a part of our lives. And even if it's not, it's just not going to affect you as much. But as we go about our day-to-day relationships, our weekly dances, the motivation can greatly impact how the result, who we are at the end of it, how we end up on the other side of the night or the day, depending on the social dance event. So oftentimes, let's go back to the definition of a successful relationship. And again, this is in tandem with successful dance. A successful relationship is a sustainable one. That means that both parties are okay or want to continue this relationship over an extended period of time. This is not something that is temporary, I guess you can say, right? So let's pretend that if we were to string together, all of our dances, if they were to be, if our dances were a relationship that we continue on with, if we can kind of put that as a comparison. A successful relationship is one that's sustainable, and one that's sustainable is one that is mutually beneficial to both parties. When we talk about mutually beneficial, that means that each individual in that relationship or in that dance is gaining something. So in order to be able to do that, to be mindful of the other's experience in that relationship versus wagon riding, taking right? We are being, it is very easy to fall into the trap of being the part of the equation that is not contributing. That is the reason why the relationship is not sustainable. This can be very unhealthy over the long run, because we can fall into yet another trap of where we begin to put the blame on others about why our relationships are not working, are not successful. Oh, they're not at my level. Oh, I don't like how they make me feel. Oh, fill in the blank. A successful relationship, one that's sustainable, one where both parties are gaining something, is only possible when we when we have a motive, when we have a motivation to contribute. Again, I feel that this is not as clear as I would like it to be, not just on the dance floor, but in a lot of relationships or a lot of people's perspectives, where it's, oh, what are they doing for me? Keep in mind, the start of this was that the relationship, for it to be sustainable, means it needs to be mutually beneficial. That does not mean in any way, shape, form, or fashion that you are neglecting your own needs, that person is not satisfying you, dare I say it. But we need to come from the motivation of entering into that relationship to start has to come from a place where we're willing to give first. I think I talk about this in another one. Innocence. I can go ahead and look up that episode if you're curious about that. That preset that just reminded me about that episode of kind of going into the relationship, not bringing in baggage from a previous one, not assuming that the flaws of our last dance carry over automatically to this one, to kind of put a blanket assumption over everyone of this gender, or fill in the blank. We can fall into a trap and quickly get discouraged, where we don't want to really enter into relationships that I can go farther alone. And the worst part about it is that it's true. Or you're able to go faster alone. And the worst part about it is that it's true. You are able to go faster alone. But as we talked about in 175, you're able to go farther together. And unfortunately, in this time, everything needs to be fast. It needs to be right now. Oh my God, it's so perfect right now. And we don't see the possible flaws moving forward, right? But there's a much larger shot when both parties are entering into the relationship willing to give. And again, I believe that there's a big misconception that it needs to be one or the other, that we either give or we receive. And I think the beauty of this whole concept is that when we give, we receive. As a matter of fact, we receive more than we could if we were to just be in the place of receiving. It's kind of like, is it a double-edged sword or a paradox? It's a beautiful thing. And when both parties, of course, do that, then you have an energetic cycle that continues to fuel itself, where one party is down, the other one is up and contributing, and when the other party is up, the other one, you're able to aid, and etc. And it ends up becoming something, again, that's sustainable. Now, of course, oh well, what if I'm giving and they're not? Well, then you just learn something about their current circumstance and you move on. right? That doesn't mean that you need to tuck your heart away, right? I would like to hope that all of you kings and queens like to give from your heart because you're good people, not because you're looking for something in return. And giving can be something tiny. It can be a hug. That goes a long way, especially nowadays. A hug for an extended period of time. When was the last time you gave a good hug to somebody who you knew that needed it intentionally? Something like that goes a long way. We don't need to be talking about anything, financial or anything like that, or gift giving, or how about just being on the phone, being able to be there for somebody, lending an ear, right? Going out to lunch together. That goes a long way when it comes to relationships, and they don't need to be romantic. This could be between girlfriends, between guy friends, right? And that really, really goes a long way with regards to how the energy can begin to reciprocate. Because of course, it's not always going to match exactly, right? And then of course that just tells you again a lot about their current circumstance and what they are able or willing to give in that moment with regards to your partner in that current time or in that dance, right? Naturally, you're going to be more drawn to the one that's able to match or exceed what you're giving. But how can you expect that from somebody if you're not willing to do it yourself? Right? Or are you just giving because the motivation is you want to receive something in return? They're really good looking, so I'm going to be really nice. Or they have a lot of money, so I'm going to, offer to volunteer my time in their business because it's beneficial to me. I think we can fall into that trap very, very quickly. So again, this episode 176, motivation. What is your motive behind how you enter into a specific relationship? And again, essentially this all comes from and stems from how your time is limited. You're going out to the dance floor. You don't have a million dances. You only have a few. Who are you choosing to dance with? Who are you choosing to connect with, right? And of course, how you do one thing is how you do everything. You're able to tell a lot about a person by how they dance, how they move, how they express themselves. Understand that people are seeing that about you as well. And it's not about, again, fancy technique, but how transparent you are. Are you able to see your open heart on your sleeve, right? That's what's going to allow others to be more more welcomed to give to you because they know that you'll be able to appreciate it and hopefully in return give back and contribute back to that relationship. And you'll see sometimes that cycle begins to spin in a way that is absolutely heartwarming and something that you want to continue over and over and over again. And the good news is that it never needs to end. And this process is absolutely free of charge. Just some music playing in the background, and you can go ahead and create this every single time, as long as your motives are genuine and you wear in your heart on your sleeve, taking care of those that are around you and those that you share an experience with on the dance floor. I love you guys so much. I hope to see you all on Miami Salsa Cruise, February 23rd through March 2nd. Andres Fernandez, signing out.